Welcome to Spotlight, everybody. This is a very special Spotlight, and we're going to be covering how to survive World War III. So this is a big deal. So I have to go through a lot of stuff today, but first I have to tell you how we're restructuring things. This is a brand new time for the world. So I will explain, but first I want to say, for those people who have been following our work at Farsight, it's worth it. Now, we have had a lot of forecasts for the future. And a lot of people, just say, we got something wrong because it didn't happen on a specific day or whatever. And I've always told you time is difficult with remote viewing, identifying, because with remote viewing, you only can get like events. So when we did the post-election, the 2024 post-election aftermath, we got a lot of stuff of rioting in the streets, National Guards in the streets, a lot of disruption going on. And, we try to ballpark it in terms of the first few months. But, it's the timing is not the same as the event. The event is what is the consequence of the 2024 election. And, now it's June, and you're starting to see all of the results that we had for the 2024 election aftermath starting to happen. We've got the National Guard in Los Angeles. We've got rioting on the streets, and all evidence seems to suggest this is just the beginning. So if you just look at the stuff we had for the 2024 post-election aftermath, it took a few months, a little longer, but what are you complaining about? We got it right. We got it right. Now, we've also been having a lot of forecasts, and if you look at that project, the post-election 2024 aftermath, there's a lot of other stuff, and so we're expecting all that stuff to happen. It's happening in the streets right now, but it's going to spread. And now we have a lot of information that we published in our deep news stuff, and regarding, for example, the actually mysteries as well as deep news stuff, regarding the Ukraine stuff and the war. And a lot of our results seem to suggest that the war is going to spread outside of Ukraine and go into Western Europe. I'm going to be talking about that in a bit, but it looks imminent, like that is going to happen. And then we also have stuff about the Middle East, stuff dealing with Iran, dealing with Israel, dealing with the United States, dealing with the Middle East. And we're on the actual cusp of that stuff happening as well. So this is what we're doing. All of those projects were funded by our subscribers on FarsightPrime.com. Every single one, they paid for those projects because we have to pay our viewers and the whole thing. What we're going to be doing now is we're going to be releasing, we've stored up a whole bunch of new stuff relating to Iran, Ukraine, the wars, the expansion into Europe, everything. And we haven't published all of that because every time we publish it, people say, okay, it's been a week now and nothing's happened. And it's so ridiculous. So we held off on a lot of stuff so that we can get two things in line. We wanted to get the events so that they looked like they were more near term, and then we'd release it so that when people see it, they'll say, oh, I see what's going on. If you have nearsighted glasses on all the time, and if it doesn't happen within a few weeks, you say, they were all screwed up. They didn't do anything right. And, it's hard for us as remote viewers to put up with all that, with everybody sort of downing us when, in fact, we're getting this stuff right. People have their own idea about, timing and stuff like that. You announce something's going to happen. And like when we did the ET stuff in the ET board meeting, the ETs, when we had our board meeting on November 13th, 2024, they told us exactly that the ships would start showing up in massive numbers in just a few days. And we published that video on the 15th, and on the 18th, the so-called drones, they were not drones, they were spaceships, but the so-called drones exploded all over the world, not just on the East Coast, but everywhere. And the U.S. government has come up with ridiculous things ever since. They first said it was an Iranian mothership using a Chinese tech. That lasted 2 hours before they pulled that one. And then about a week or so later, they came up with a new one saying it was a Chinese mothership that was putting. That didn't last very long either, although it did get some traction on the Sean Ryan podcast, which is a serious podcast. And then that went away. And then Donald Trump announced that they were just all FAA approved experimental aircraft, which nobody believed because they were flying all over the world. They weren't just East Coast New Jersey. So, and Donald Trump was actually not going to certain events in the country because of these so-called drones were all over the place. They couldn't guarantee his safety because they were flying all over the place. If they were FAA experimental aircraft, do you think that would have happened? So FAA approved. So nothing that the government has said was accurate about that. But that was the only time the ETs gave us a specific date, and bang, it happened. After that, they said the next thing is big ships. We're going to come with big ships. And then everybody said, okay, if they're not there within a week or two, Courtney's and FARSIGHT'S lying. Well, they never told us the date, but they did say the next big thing is big. The next major thing is big ships. But also in the months after that, I explained that each monthly message we got was one thing extra: the need to communicate, how humans should try to start communicating when the ships happen, one thing after the next. And finally, they explained to us that they sent all those massive tens of thousands of drones out in order to prove to people that it didn't matter showing up with the ships. The controllers have complete control of the information control system, so it didn't matter. It did not matter. Something else is needed. The information control system itself has to come down, and that's where we're headed right now. We're heading towards the collapse of the information control system. And so that's what we're really talking about today. So we have these FARSIGHT projects and the deep news stuff. We're going to start putting out a lot, but we're going to stagger everything. So from now on, all of the stuff that we're going to be coming out goes out first on FarsightPrime.com. Those people paid for these projects, they get them first. They all come out there. And a week later, then we'll put out the deep news for everybody on YouTube and so on like that. So if you want, and some of the stuff is going to be very time sensitive, so it's really good. So if you're a subscriber for FarsightPrime.com, you're getting your money's worth. You get everything first, including this video itself, Spotlight. We're going to put up the beginning of this Spotlight on YouTube for free for people to see so they know the new structure. But basically everything is going to be coming out on FarsightPrime.com first. And then like the deep news and stuff, the stuff we've been holding back because we've been waiting for things to get ready to happen. And now it looks like they're getting ready to happen. So we're going to give all of our subscribers that first. And then we're going to release the deep news and things like that on FARSIGHT's YouTube channel a week later. All right, but if you're here right now in the live stream, you're getting it live and you get the whole thing. But after that, it's going to be the permanent recording goes up on FarsightPrime.com. Okay, and then a week later, we'll put the permanent recording up on YouTube. All right, now, so that is with regard to our stuff that we've had. We've got a huge number of massive hits. We've rarely missed anything, but the timing is not always exactly what we expect. But that's the way remote viewing is. It only goes after events. You can't say what's going to happen in November on the 15th. You can't do that. You're going after events, and then those events come through, and you're ballparking it. You use normal forensic stuff to try to figure out the date it is. And so we, as remote viewers, we're talking all the time. We're looking at things that are happening in the world and saying, hey, does it look like something's going to happen? Is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? When we're trying to figure out the dates as well. When we know that we know what's going to happen, but getting the exact date is hard. So we have to use normal forensic stuff to sort of figure that stuff out. All right. So, and it's not that time is fuzzy. It's just that the remote viewing and time, as we understand it, is just a number, and you don't get a number from remote viewing. You get an event. Something happens. So that's it. All right. Now, there's real good reasons to believe that we are on the edge of World War III. Now, first, for those of you who say, Courtney, you're just being, hyperbolic here. I mean, why don't you just calm down, chill out, have a margarita and go to the beach or something. I don't drink anyway. But let's go to the European Union. Now, Ursula von der Leyen, I hope I pronounced her name right. She's president of the European Commission. She is essentially the leader of all of Europe. She's head of the European Union. Consider her she is the president of the European Commission. That means she's president of Europe. Each country has their own has their own governance, but the governance for all of Europe is got a president, and her name is Ursula von der Leyen. That's Leyen. Now, this is her talking, okay? She has been repeatedly saying this ever since the war with Russia and Ukraine has been going on, and she's emphasizing it more and more. And she's formerly a conservative German politician. She's not someone who is trying to get YouTube videos get higher ratings. She's not trying to scare people. Her job is simply to tell people the truth. And she is now saying she's emphasized the need, and I'm getting this from Google AI. So if you Google it and say, this is what I got. Has emphasized the need for European Union citizens to have enough food, water, and essential items to last at least 3 days, which is 72 hours, in case of a crisis. And this recommendation, this is a formal recommendation. It's been going on for months now. This is not like yesterday. This recommendation is like almost a year, maybe a year and a half it started. This recommendation is part of the European Union's new preparedness union strategy. And here's the key, that's a formal document. So here's the key points. New preparedness. Von der Leyen stated that new realities require a new level of preparedness, highlighting the changing security landscape in Europe. 72-hour self-sufficiency. The European Union recommends that the European Union citizens be self-sufficient with essential supplies for a minimum of 72 hours in emergencies. And this advice is included in the European Union's Preparedness Union Strategy, which is a formal document, which addresses a range of threats including cyber attacks, climate change, disease, and potential armed aggression. Beyond food and water, this is still from Google AI, while food and water are crucial, the strategy, this is the European Union's formal strategy, also recommends preparing a survival kit that includes items like torches, matches, radios, identification papers, and phone chargers. And then, learning from crisis. The strategy reflects the lessons learned from the past events such as the COVID-19 pandemic and Russia's actions in Ukraine, and emphasizes the need for proactive preparedness. Focus on citizen preparedness. The strategy encourages the public to take practical measures to prepare for crises. Ensuring essential services. The strategy also focuses on maintaining essential services such as healthcare and drinking water in emergencies. Okay, so we're going to start that as a basis. Now that's the President of the European Union talking. She's not going to try to rattle your cage. That's a very low-key, conservative, minimal statement. She's not going to, say, the sky is falling, scream, try to rattle people that way. But the very fact that she's saying that much tells you, put two and two together, there's a lot more she's working with. And this totally really happened as a result of the Ukraine war. That's really how it all started. It really wasn't the COVID-19 thing. It was the Ukraine war that sort of triggered this. And it was either a year and a half or 2 years ago she started talking like this. Okay, so we're going to be going over the basic stuff for you being prepared. But let me go through some of the elements that would suggest that World War III is a real possibility. Folks, let's put two and two together. Ukraine has lost this war. They can't beat Russia. They are killing so many more Russians than the Ukrainians are losing, but the Ukrainian population is small relative to Russia. Russia is losing the battle on the battlefield with regard to number of deaths, but they're just pumping more and more people out there to fight. And the Ukrainians can't win, and they're losing territory, and they're losing people, and the Ukrainians don't have enough people. So President Zelensky knows that this is a lost war unless NATO and the United States can be inserted into the war to fight Russia directly. That's the only way. So NATO's and United States is being pulled into it. Ukraine's total operations are get the United States and Europe into this war so that they are battling Russia. So that helps explain what happened just last week when the Ukrainians took out $7 billion of Russian nuclear-armed bombers. This is the nuclear fleet. And they took them out. They weren't anywhere near Ukraine. They were like on the other side of Russia. They were nowhere near Ukraine. They were way over 1,000 miles, more than that, kilometers, in places that had nothing to do. And those bombers were sitting on the ground, and they were open, so you could see them, because that was part of the nuclear treaty that Russia has with the United States, that the weapons have to be seen so they can be accounted for. Now, there is no possible way in the world that the Ukrainians could have pulled that off. It was a very tricky maneuver, getting these really complicated launchers, disguised, camouflaged, way over 1,000 miles away on the other side of Russia. And then the roofs popped off and these missiles came out and they destroyed the bombers. There's no possible way in the world that could have been done without the United States intelligence services being deeply involved. There's no way it could have happened. Ukrainians, they can't do anything like that, and Russia knows that. So there are elements within the United States government that probably goes beyond the United States, and it probably does not involve Donald Trump, that want a war for whatever reason. They're really pushing for a war, and they're not stupid. They know that taking out the part of the nuclear fleet of Russia is going to trigger a response. So that's huge. So now what we have is the generals in Russia, for those people who are following this stuff, the generals in Russia are absolutely demanding a limited nuclear strike against Ukraine. So they're talking about escalating all of the weapons that Ukraine gets, and the targeting and personnel that gets these sophisticated things to work. They're from Europe or the United States, but they're not Ukrainians that are capable of doing that type of thing. And so what you have now is Britain, France, and Germany have all now allowed their long-range missiles to be used deep inside Russia. Now, the Ukrainians are going to do that because their incentive is to get Russia really upset and then have Russia really kick back in a way that there's spillover for the fighting into Western Europe. And that's what it looks like is going to happen. The spillover is going to go into Western Europe, and that's the only thing that Ukraine is saying could possibly help them, because that would trigger a full response from Europe, from the NATO allies, and the United States. Otherwise, Ukraine is history. So the incentives on the part of Ukraine, and now we see the incentives, the mandatory incentives on the part of Russia, are to escalate this thing. So this is going to grow big. Now, in addition to that, the stuff in the West and the United States is likely going to grow big as well. All of the enemies of the United States know that the only reason the United States has been getting involved with so many places around the world forever is because of the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. We're like an island, and it's hard to get to us. So what's happening is the enemies know that they've got to attack the continental United States in order for the United States to start, not doing this type of stuff. So during the last 4 years, during the Biden and Harris administration, they had an open door policy where they let in, 10 million people. Within those people, there were lots of people that were sent in, operatives from Iran and Al-Qaeda, and, you can assume from Russia as well, that were placed in, and they're sleepers. They're not actively doing stuff. But they also came in with weapons, especially, Iran and Al-Qaeda. You can be sure that they brought in weapons. And just think, if they can bring in drugs with 18-wheelers, and that's the only way you can supply the level of drugs that's in the United States right now, then they can bring in weapons as well. So you can assume that they have missiles and other things. And you can hear people talk about this on the Sean Ryan podcast on YouTube. So this isn't just me talking. So these people are sleepers. They're not actually doing something directly now. But when things start coming out, there's going to be a need to distract the United States from getting fully engaged and just pounding Russia or pounding Iran or whatever. And so something's going to happen on the other side. So you can expect that what we're looking at with regard to World War III, it looks as inevitable as you can possibly look at it from this perspective. It hasn't happened yet, and maybe it won't happen, but all the ingredients are there. That's why von der Leyen's comments here on the European Union stuff of being prepared really should be taken seriously. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to go through what you should do to prepare yourself for what I think is coming. Okay, and look, if it doesn't happen, I'd be so happy that, Armageddon did not happen, World War III, everybody negotiated a peace and everyone went home. But that doesn't look like it's going to happen. So you need to know what to do to prepare, and that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. So this is the end of the video that's going to be going up on YouTube. What the rest of the video is going to be going up on FarsightPrime.com immediately. As soon as this is over, we edit it and we put it up on FarsightPrime.com. The entire thing will come out on YouTube a week later. But FarsightPrime.com, those subscribers deserve to get this stuff first. And this is absolutely crucial information. And then the other stuff that we're going to be coming out with, all the deep news stuff that gives you background for what's going on in Iran, what's going on in Europe, what's going on inside the head of Vladimir Putin. All that stuff is going to be coming out, but it's always going to be staggered 1 week in advance for FarsightPrime.com before it comes here. The Farsight mysteries, the major mysteries, like we just had a major mystery on Pine Gap, Australia. That is the most secret military intelligence base dealing with extraterrestrial phenomena anywhere. It's way more secret than Area 51. It's in Australia, and we just released what that is. It's the first full description of what's in Pine Gap, Australia. So when things are so secret they can't be kept in Area 51, they go to Pine Gap. And that's the first major project anywhere on what's actually there, and we just released it. So if you haven't seen it, it's up on FarsightPrime.com. Okay, so this is the end of the initial YouTube stuff that's going, and everything, however, that's going up on YouTube. The rest of this live stream, if you're getting it now on live stream, you're getting the whole thing. But the rest of it is going to go up as a permanent recording on FarsightPrime.com, and in a week, we're going to put the rest of it up on YouTube. So anyway, I want to thank all of our subscribers for making this possible, and you're getting it first. All right. What do you need to do? All right. All right. So it's one thing to have, you should have enough food and water for 72 hours. That's not going to cut it. But that's a good thing to have. That's a minimal. It's like hint, 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 prepare. But there's basic living elements that you need to be talking about. And there's a lot of stuff that's involved with that. I'm going to be showing you the stuff. I have it right here. All types of stuff. I'm going to be showing you what this stuff is. Okay, let's go over the basic elements first. I'm going to be talking about them first, and then I'm going to be a show and tell of what the actual stuff looks like. Water. Let's start with water.